Go ahead.
All right. So, okay, my name is Anita, and I'm the daughter of Reg, Awagasina, and Rosemary Akwanamaki. I'm the mother to Nohita the Bigwood, my son Anthony. His father comes from the Sioux Valley, Manitoba group. It's been great to be back here at Bigani, Pagan, Rocket, home of the poor high-tanners. As I was driving south from Okinstas to Calgary, I saw Chief Mountain pass the famous UNESCO World Heritage Site Hitsmashed Buffalo Drum, where I had the honor of working with the late Walter Crowshoe, heard stories from the late Sam Goodrider, and sang at the drum with my late Uncle Leopard. Amazing Grace at the drum for tourists. I stopped in to see my parents who had fresh homemade napayan fried bread, and I just want to say oki, and oki to those live streaming on Facebook as well, and people that have come here to see candidates.
Thank you very much. Okay, so your question is, how are you willing to fight corruption within the nation? This includes interdepartmental corruption and nepotism. Also, given that most of Bigani are related to each other, how would you clarify what nepotism is?
Those are good questions.
Anita, project your voice a little bit, okay?
Sure. To understand what the fight is, we need to understand how was this handled historically. We will provide options that have worked and what has not worked and why. Departments have memorandum of understanding, contracts, funding requirements, policies, work plans, goals to support best practice, and in some cases there are boards. Could we invite leaders from other nations to provide external oversight, declaring a conflict of interest if there is one, or related to, or in business with chief and council and members, ethics of leadership, sticking to our policies. Those are what dictates what we're supposed to do. Charges to be laid, we have in regards to the concept of the thing of the practice when we're looking at corruption. The interesting thing here is that as leadership, it's really about governance. And when you look at that, setting up governance to fight corruption, and nepotism is also stated within our policies.
Okay. Okay, you can choose another number. Thank you. Okay, 41. Do you believe that spirituality is important to have while being a member of Chief and Council? If so, what are your ideas to incorporate the Bigani values?
The spirit of Bigani is strong. Our ways of existing from when Creator blew life into us goes back beyond the written documents. That tells the Western world who we really are as Nitsitabi. To say Bigani written constitution is the absolute solution would be compromising the buffalo from being hidden by the people. When we talk about not being the buffalo and about the story and the connection to our community, we're really looking at those pieces and what they mean to us as Nitsitabis. How can we say spirit is Biganisin values when we really have to look at what was created beforehand in order to move forward as a group? Thank you.
Okay, 22. Do you believe that the band ranch should be open to the younger generation within Bigani, and what kind of experience would you like to see coming from that?
Des, could you repeat it one more time? Just project your voice a little.
Okay.
Some of the elders are a little hard of hearing.
Okay.
This is the next question.
Do you believe that the band ranch should be open to the younger generation within Bigani, and what kind of experience experience would you like to see coming from that?
Yes, this can be a stepping stone that we are passionate about. Ranching, farming, mentoring programs. With quality ranchers who have become mentors within our community. We're using mentors with good habits. The youth will want to be there. Lessons with life lessons, pairing youth with mature mentors to support trust. Trust will develop between ranching, farmers, and trainees. They need to both get something out of this. Leadership, partnership, departments, and funding will need to work out the logistics. Land, self-sufficiency, history, our possibilities to create a foundation for good role modeling. So when we really look at the concept of a band ranch and opening to the younger generations within Picani, experience is one of the things that comes out when we look at that. And one of the things I think about is The Lost Harvest, the book on the Lost Harvest, and stories that I've heard from people. My grandfather, Julius English, the late Julius English, never told me the stories, but I recall when there were times where we took our cattle to one of the biggest fairs in the United States, and we ranked in the top parts of those. And those are components and pieces of our history that we need to include and be proud of and support the next generation if that's the direction and if that's the support they want to go into. And it also support the concept of Picani land, if we really looked at that, because that's connected to the land, well, it's connected to us as people. Thank you.
Thank you. Two more questions. What kind of transparency can we see from you when a controversial decision is made?
Can I get you to read that to me one more time?
Yep. What kind of transparency can we see from you when a controversial decision is made?
Okay, I can't find my answer to that one. C, there you go. So when we look at transparency and what kind of transparency that you can see from me as a leader, I think transparency, and we have to be careful when we say transparency, because when we look at the transparency of that, we're looking at it from the written form. So financial information about travel, those things, yes, they've been posted before, and being able to create that practice. Yet at the same time, as a leader, we sit on different boards, and those are not included in the concept of transparency. We might just have that transparency as leaders within the concept of chief and council. But if we're sitting on other boards, those need to be part of the transparency. So as a leader, I would be transparent in those aspects of things to understand that. And also, one of the things that when we look as leaders, if we're traveling and we're going places, it's really important that that travel be for the betterment of the Picani Nation. Not for workshops, not for enhancements. Those are things that our management and our community members deserve. As leaders, if it's going to benefit our nation and it's going to be something that's going to move in that direction, that's really important. And minimizing and making sure that there's a standard by which we as leadership are creating so that other people we can role model to that are employed on the reserve, and the ones that are employed off the reserve can be proud of us as leaders within Picani. Thank you. This is the last one?
Last one. Really mix it in there.
Okay.
What policies would you like to see updated, and how do you plan to go about doing so?
I'm just not even going to look at that. So When we talk about policies, those are components that are within the practice of work. Those are things that afford an employer the ability to understand how to do the work, when to do the work, and what it looks like. And it gives them that safety venue to be able to follow through with work. When we look at those come from the people that are working in those environments. Those come from the ones that are within those fields. And adjustments that are required to be made come from a governance system that Chief and Council would support when we're looking at things. One of the things I have to say here is when someone says, you know what, just doesn't seem right, that should be validated just as much as someone that has a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, and in those areas. Because when I look at education and experience, we look at people that have created Facebook, the Coca-Cola company. Those individuals, one of them didn't even graduate from high school, yet he's successful in running a multi-million-dollar business in the world. When we look at those policies need to support the thought process and the safety mechanisms of our employability with our Big Body Nation and provide safety for them. So I would work closely with understanding what the policies are and allowing the managers and the departments to work within the practices so that we can create something that's stronger and people can be proud to say, you know what, this is our resource development piece and I really enjoy working here. The young people, when I went out on my visits, the young people said, you know, it's really embarrassing when some of our people that we go to school with come and work in Begunning, and when they work in Begunning, they talk about never wanting to come back to work there because they didn't feel that safety thing. That's one of our most valued resources, are our youth. And if they're saying that to us, then we need to listen and we need to include that be a part of what we're looking at when we move forward. And when you're talking about hiding the buffalo, will not be in the buffalo we're hitting in the mountain, not be supported us in being able to find where the buffalo were and give it back to the people. And that's what we need to do as leaders. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, our next candidate is Franklin Wolfcat. I hope you got a good look.